how's it going?
Good. We are sitting in a little courtyard in Cali, Colombia, and doing an interview here because we just took a few days to come to Colombia.
Yeah.
And this is where you
incredible.
live.
This is it.
How long have you been traveling? Just recently. You've been gone for how long?
6 weeks.
What were all the places?
I spent a month in Patagonia and then a week in Guatemala and a week in Colombia.
And I met you here in Colombia. Just for fun. Just for funsies.
This is how I live my life.
So how much of the year would you say you travel?
Last year I traveled a lot. Well, this year I traveled, I think almost 6 months, 5 to 6 months.
And this is all because you got into real estate as a way to enable your travel addiction.
Yeah, real estate completely changed my life and just allowed for so much freedom. I get to leave whenever I want and I don't have to ask anyone for time off or request PTO or anything like that.
Yeah, the extraordinary life that everyone wants to live because of real estate. Mm-hmm. How did you find real estate and what made it important enough for you to take that step instead of just sticking with the simplicity of a 9-to-5?
So in a really crazy way, I ended up in real estate through travel.
Huh.
Yeah. So back in 2019, me and my best friend Lily, we decided to take a year to travel around South America. So I had a job at the time. I was working at a university and I quit my job, and she was a nurse and she took some time off from nursing. And we decided that we just wanted to go backpacking. It's something we'd wanted to do for many years. Yeah. And so we just took off and did it. And when we were in Colombia, actually, crazy enough, we met someone who was in real estate. And we started hanging out with that person and traveling together. I don't know if I've ever told you this story. Okay, so we were traveling through Patagonia, through Ecuador, with this guy that we met who was driving his Jeep from Alaska to Argentina.
Oh my gosh.
And so we started spending a lot of time together, and he started teaching us about real estate, which is something I had never considered before. Didn't own a house at that time, didn't actually own hardly anything.
Yeah.
And so we started learning about real estate, and he started teaching us about wholesaling. And we were listening to podcasts, and that was the first time I read all kinds of different books, like audiobooks, because we were in the car all the time driving around South America. And that is the time in my life that my mind was open to real estate, and also that my mind was open to the possibility of earning more income than I had in the past. So I kind of had this idea just kind of based on the way that I was raised, the way that I grew up, and my kind of limiting beliefs, that I wouldn't really have a high earning potential. And then I started reading these real estate books because I didn't want to go back to school, and I didn't really have a specific career path that I was following at that time. And so then I found real estate, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that I can do. I don't have to go back to school. I don't have to get another degree. I'm listening to all these podcasts where all these just normal people get into real estate, start buying houses, build all this equity, get cash flow and passive income. And I just started to believe that that was possible for me too. Yeah. And it all happened in South America. And then COVID hit and I had to go back home. So we're in now March of 2020. And I had very few options. And so I thought, okay, now is my chance to get into real estate. I have nothing going on. I can't even leave the house because it was early COVID. And so I thought, I'm going to start a wholesale business.
Wow.
And I started that in March of 2020.
Wow. So just 4 years. You left your job in 2019.
Yes.
And you, at that time, you were just thinking you'd saved up money. You were going to go spend money for a year and enjoy life, and then you'd have to go back to a job.
Back to a 9-to-5.
But you found real estate along the way, and it just changed your perspective. What do you think it was that helped you shift your perspective? Because a lot of people see real estate and they hear the stories, but they don't necessarily have that mindset shift where they believe that it can work for them.
I think that I was already living kind of a unique lifestyle, and I just knew that I needed to figure something out that gave me more freedom in my life. The 9-to-5 thing was not working for me.
Yeah.
I don't do well with that type of schedule.
Yep.
And with having to ask for time off, that's really the biggest thing for me since I travel so much. So, yeah, I think the mindset shift was just this is an opportunity for me to really prioritize my values of travel and freedom and just take a risk.
Yeah.
So,
And that
yeah.
risk taking is such a, especially it was a risky time too during COVID. Like there's just so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
But when you see something that really matters to you, that you really want, and I think those are the stories I love, because it's not about building to a certain unit count or a certain revenue. Like the real goal, those are not goals. Those are the tools that enable your life goals, right? Like the lifestyle that you want, the freedom that you want to be able to travel 5 or 6 months out of the year.
Yes.
So that's amazing. It's funny, I actually also left my corporate job in 2019. It was January 2019 when I left mine, so we were leaving our jobs at the same time.
Yeah, it was kind of I don't know if there was like a shift during that time. And then COVID happened and everyone was like, oh my gosh, I can work from anywhere. A lot changed during that time.
So tell me about what you do now in real estate and in general, like how you're fueling this really amazing life that you live.
March of 2020, I started the wholesale business, and I have now been doing that for almost 5 years. Almost 5 years. It's crazy to think about. But I started with wholesaling, and then after about a year, I started actually buying some of the deals instead of just wholesaling them. So my now fiance and I were working together in wholesaling, and we kind of like got the courage up to start buying our own rentals. So at this point in time, we now still have a wholesale business that we're becoming a little bit less active in that because we've started transitioning actually a little bit out of that as an active income into some things that we're really currently excited about. We can talk about that later if you want to, but yeah, so now we do a few wholesale deals a year, and then we also have 6 medium-term rentals.
Got it.
So those are furnished rentals that we rent to travel nurses. And so those bring us a consistent monthly income. And St. Louis is just such a great market to buy rentals, and especially for midterm rentals, like it's been so good for us. So what our real estate currently looks like is managing those rentals and doing a few wholesale deals per year.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you like the most in real estate? I mean, what's the strategy that you like the most, and why?
At this time, I really enjoy our rental properties. We self-manage them because it's kind of a small amount of units, but we self-manage those, and I'm a very organized person, so I actually love managing our rentals. Like, I know everybody has like these nightmare stories about crazy tenants and stuff, but since we rent to nurses, we really don't have things like that happening with our rental portfolio because it's a very different client base, tenant base. And yeah, I love managing the rentals. It's kind of like you're in hospitality a little bit with because it's like kind of a short-term rental of like with the turnover and just the management of that. I actually really enjoy that.
I love the way you describe it, because you are pointing out the fact that in real estate you can really pick and choose the things you enjoy doing, and then find, either don't do the other strategies or find ways to outsource the pieces that you don't like.
Yeah.
But there's so many ways to do real estate that you can pick. And then you're also talking about your client base. You're talking about the customers because it's a business, and you're thinking about it and running it like a business. But so many people, I think, look at things like real estate and think they have to build up hundreds of units to get where they need to go, and you've got 6.
Yeah.
And so many people think that they've got to build up some huge business where they're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week to run it, maybe more, sacrificing all their time. But you're a living example of the fact that you can build a business that's small but mighty and then live this dream life of traveling for half the year.
Yeah, and I have no desire to have 100 units. I personally am I don't value the hustle and grind culture. It's just not what I want to do with my life. Some people want to do that, and that's great. If you want to have 100 units, that's awesome, do it. But I think it's important to recognize your own values in life and to not just chase after something because it sounds cool. Like, actually sit down and think, okay, what do I love to do? And then figure out how to do more of that instead of just hustling just for the hell of it. It's just not what I personally want to do with my time. I love that we're sitting here in Cali, Colombia right now. we're spending a week here just salsa dancing and having the best time together.
Yep.
And I value that over I need to be home like working. It's just not my style.
Right. We're fitting this interview in between cappuccinos and the best almond croissants either of us have ever had in our lives.
Yeah.
And then right after this, we go to a salsa dance class.
Yes.
Before probably taking a nap and then getting ready for another evening of salsa dancing tonight.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think so many people get into real estate with this intention, right? They want to create a life that they really love and where they're doing the things they want to spend time doing, but then they do get caught in the hustle. And they start to compare themselves to what they see other people doing. And they start to think they have to have massive goals to be a success. They forget to define success for themselves. They start to define it based on all these other examples around them.
Yeah.
I struggle with that too. I consistently have to remind myself, like, wait, is that a decision that gets me closer to or further from the day-to-day life that I want to be living?
And we've had those times. There were several, because we bought 6 rentals in like a year and a half. And we managed all the renovations. We didn't do a ton of the work ourselves. We did in the beginning because we were learning. But we managed, like we were the general contractor for all these renovations. And we did a couple flips during that time as well. So there were several years where it was like every weekend we're working on the houses. Like we're running around to different parts of town. Renovating and then furnishing and then finding tenants, and then we'd buy another one and another one and another one for like, it was a couple years where every single weekend we were buying, and then we decided to intentionally slow down with that. Like, hey, we're a little overwhelmed. Like, let's take a break. And then I remember Enzo and I, the first time it was like a Saturday and we didn't have a project to work on and we were just laying in bed and we were like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is actually like nice to take a break.
Yes.
And so now we're in this period where we're just kind of passively managing the rentals. But like, that's not to say that we won't have another couple years of let's buy more to continue building that. It's just not the time that we're in right now. So I think, you don't always have to be buying rentals. Like, take a break and enjoy what you've built, and then buy some more if you want to.
Yeah. And I love that description of how it's gone for you too, because it's true that you are going to have those times where you have to kind of put your nose to the grindstone and get a big project finished up, or find the next thing that's going to keep pushing you towards your goals. But that shouldn't be, hopefully, 100% of the time for most of us who have other things in life that we want to do.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. Enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
What do you think is something that you found? Because I think it's so true that we all have these like superpowers, these things that we're really amazing at that can benefit us in life and in whatever we choose to build. What's been the superpower that you found that really helped you in real estate?
I think that I'm able to take risks. And like, to be honest, when I started, I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have this huge real estate education, have my real estate license or anything like that. I had listened to dozens and dozens and dozens of podcasts and read books. And that was it. And to get from that to buying a rental, you have to take a risk. And it's not going to feel comfortable. And you might be like, what the heck am I doing? Because I had never owned anything in my life. So I think something that has helped me a lot is to just be able to take a risk. And one of the ways that I was able to do that is to have people in my life who push me to do things that I may not be super comfortable with. So like when it was clearly time to buy the first rental, but I was like kind of having like a little bit of panic about it. Enzo was like, you're going to do it and it's going to be fine. So just having someone on your side who's like, it's time to take that risk. And also just knowing when it's time to switch from reading a lot of books and listening to podcasts and going to the meetups to like jump into it. It's time to go. Like,
how would you define that moment for you? When did you know, or did you know? Did you just have to do it anyway?
So there's 2 big risks that I recall. There's multiple, but the 2 that stand out most in my mind is when I made my first cold call, because that was a big step in getting started with wholesaling. It was the first step. So I remember like I saw distressed property in my neighborhood and I found the phone number online and I had it sitting in front of me and I was like, I don't want to make this phone call. And then so like a friend was like, if you don't call that number, I'm going to call it. And I was like, here we go. And then he just made the phone call, and it's like, that was like a risk. Like, it sounds kind of silly now, but at the time it was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to call this person and ask if they want to sell their house. Like, that seems like a crazy thing to do.
Right.
And then I did it hundreds of times after that, and that's how our wholesale business got started. But yeah, it was just, it's feeling the nerves and then doing it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing I always have to remind myself about risk is there's always risk. Like, choosing to take the risks you took felt more like a risk. But if you hadn't done that, there were different risks from not taking those chances. So, and lots of times we don't think about it that way. You don't think about the fact that, like, you have a huge risk of not living the life that you want because you didn't take this other risk. It's all risk. There's risk everywhere. You just have to, like, actively choose the ones that push you in the direction you actually want to go.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. So tell me what you've done besides real estate, because I know that real estate has enabled you to build another business that you're really passionate about.
Yes. So in the last couple of years, I started pursuing my dream that I've had for a very long time of group travel. So so now I use these organizational skills to put together group trip, like international group trip experiences, like hiking around Italy. We did a hike to the Lost City here in Colombia. So I'm doing like 4 to 5 of those a year now.
That's amazing.
So I'm like on top of the real estate activities that we're doing, I'm also starting my own travel business, which is really like an actual dream.
That's amazing.
Big dream for me, and having that cushion that I've built through real estate, through the equity in our homes and through the income coming in through the rental properties, has really given me like the space and just the resources that I needed to then take the risk of jumping into this travel business.
Absolutely.
So that's been really cool.
So can you kind of describe, I guess, I know it's very difficult in real estate, because I always have trouble with it too, but what does a day or a week or a month in the life of Melanie look like?
It's always different.
Yeah.
So it just depends on like how many turnovers we have in that month, what kind of maintenance phone calls we're getting. So like, for example, we won't hear from our tenants for like a month, like nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like, I think it was 2 months ago that one of our Airbnb tenants sent a photo of the kitchen ceiling.
Oh God.
In one of the rentals.
I remember this photo.
And it was a bubble that was like this big. And they're like, hey, there's like this weird thing in the kitchen ceiling. And we were like, I'm coming over right now. So like, and so when I like drove over there and we were like, holy shit. So it just kind of depends. It's variable. Like, so, but the activities that we do with our rentals, I mean, would be like managing turnovers, managing maintenance, just the little things that pop up with maintenance, finding tenants. So we use Furnished Finder and Airbnb to get our midterm rental tenants. And I actually don't have numbers on how much time I spend a month on that. But, and I honestly, I couldn't even guess. But a lot of my real estate work is on the rentals, and then with wholesaling, it's just following up with leads. You know, there's people in our CRM that I've been following up with for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So and sometimes those are some of the best deals that you can get. And I like really form relationships with these people because I check in with them, and there's kind of like this, oh, I'll call you. Like, I will call you when it's time to sell my house, and it happens. And that's like, we're still getting deals from cold calls that I made 4 years ago. So
that's amazing.
But it's hard to describe my schedule. And then I'm also like, I'm planning trips all the time. I'm like constantly planning a trip, either a personal trip for myself or group travel also. And then just kind of like dreaming up what kinds of destinations we want to go to.
Does that one even feel like work?
No. Oh my God, no. That's just like literally
your happy
dreaming.
Place.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'll be going on your trip in next September.
Yes, we're going to Machu Picchu.
Yes, hiking the Inca Trail. I'm so excited about it.
It's going to be really cool. There's always a handful of real estate people on my trips, so it's really fun. And it's especially fun when people from St. Louis come, because we get to like maintain that connection and see each other at the real estate meetups and stuff. So
Yeah, it's amazing how you've intertwined these different pieces of your life and these different businesses and how the circles are all kind of connecting.
Right. It just kind of happened organically.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what would you say you don't have to tell me dollar amounts, but percentage of income across your rentals, your travel business, and your wholesaling? How does that kind of come together to fuel your life?
So the wholesaling is a big part of our active income. Wholesaling is an awesome business. You know, if you can get it set up and started, wholesaling is a great income generator.
Yep.
So since the travel business is newer, I don't know, I would say probably like maybe 30% of my income is coming from the travel business, and then maybe 60% from wholesaling, and then probably 10% from like the rental income.
This is what I love about real estate, though, is that the different strategies come with different strengths, because while 10% of your income might be coming from the rentals, that's probably where all your net worth growth is happening, because you have midterm tenants paying you rent to cover all your expenses on a property that's appreciating, and they're paying down your debt for you over time. So your equity is growing from both appreciation and debt pay down.
Yeah. And we buy deals, you know, we buy properties that need work. So we're able to build in a lot of equity by rehabbing. Yeah. And we also do house hacking. We rent out the upstairs of our home to a nurse. So that pays half of our mortgage every month, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. Highly recommend house hacking and living with a nurse, even if it's not a duplex. Like if you just have a private space in your home, whether that's the basement or another level. I think a lot of people are like, well, that must be so weird to like live with someone. But I mean, look at me, I'm staying in a hostel right now. So I obviously like don't need a ton of privacy. And it's worked out really well for us. We've been house hacking for over 2 years now.
Yeah.
And we even like in our home that we lived in before this one, we had 3 bedrooms and we rented out 2 of them to nurses, like all in the same space. We didn't even have a private space. But it paid almost our entire mortgage. So
And that's huge, because that generally, rent or mortgage, I think they say that's a solid 35% of the average American income. So when you can cut that in half or more, or some people can house hack in a way that cuts it out completely for them, that's either so much more that you have to spend on other things, or so much less that you have to make from rentals or a business.
Exactly.
It can just really catapult you in your financial situation.
I highly recommend it. Renting to nurses is so great because they work a lot. And when they're not working, they're resting, sleeping, eating. Like they're not like sitting on the couch watching TV. They might lay in their own bed and watch TV, but they're very busy people, and they're on a mission to work and make money, and they're very responsible. So it's awesome.
I love how intentional your decisions about all this stuff is. It's not just house hack, invite someone to come live with you, but it's house hack with someone who needs the space. It needs to be furnished. We can provide a solution to their issues. Because it's oftentimes travel nurses.
Always, pretty much.
But that also suits your lifestyle and the amount that you're willing to give in terms of privacy and sharing spaces.
And it's also kind of nice because when we go out of town, somebody is at the house. So, you know, they can keep an eye on everything while we're gone in Patagonia for a month.
That's amazing. Dude, if your options are, ooh, do I really want to share my kitchen? Or, ooh, do I want to go to Patagonia for a month?
Yeah, exactly.
I would share a kitchen to go to Patagonia for a full month.
Rent our space out upstairs for $1,000 a month. What would an extra $1,000 a month look like for you?
Right. And it's a pretty easy tweak that most people can make. If you own your own home already, even if you don't own it sometimes, if you can get, you know, if you can talk to a landlord and get approval to bring in a roommate, but kind of manage that. I mean, I've never done that, and I very much like the ownership side because of the other benefits. So many ways to do real estate, and that's the power in it. Let's get a little more tactical before we wrap up. What's something, because you've done wholesaling, you've done midterm rentals, what's kind of like your favorite strategy and something that's been super helpful to you in that? What's a tip you want to share with people, whether it's a tactic or a tool or something that you use in your business?
So I don't know if this is like exactly what you're looking for, but I think the biggest thing for me is to have a community. So be around other people who make what you want to do seem less crazy. Because like if you're just getting started with like the idea of real estate
Yep.
and you are only surrounded by people who have never done real estate, or like maybe like an uncle or something who had a rental a long time ago and they're like, oh, it's a nightmare. Then it's like, it makes you seem kind of, it's like, oh, is this crazy? This might be crazy. But then like you find in the city that you live in, you find a group of women who get together once a month and have a real estate meetup. And for me, like the groups of women are like the most comfortable space for me. And you get involved with a community like that, and it just makes you think like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like all these people are doing this.
Yes.
And it just kind of gives you like the confidence, and also you can get all of your questions answered.
Yes.
Like I go into our local community in St. Louis and I'm just like, type in the Facebook group and then like 5 people answer my question or like provide contacts or what I'm looking for.
Yep.
So I think like the biggest tool for me is having a community and people who can make you feel less crazy, because you might have dreams that like nobody in your family has ever had before.
Right.
And you need to be around people who are making those things happen, because it's just like so much more likely that you'll actually do it.
Right.
So I would say find a community. I think that's the most helpful thing that you can do to get started. And don't get stuck in that research phase. You've got to get out of the research phase.
Yep.
If you're super scared, you don't really have any clue what you're doing, find somebody in one of these local groups and say, hey, I know you're doing a flip right now. Like, can I go see it? And like maybe learn a little bit about what you're doing. I'd love to just see what it looks like to manage a project and find somebody local who you can really learn from.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if that counts as a tool.
No, it absolutely does. I think networking and meetups, and especially the in-person, I think there's a lot of strength. You know, we're starting this YouTube channel because I think the stories and the examples are so powerful. But as powerful as this is, I hope for people who are listening and watching, it's even more powerful when you're the one who gets to sit down and have the conversation. I mean, you're making me think about things I want to change and tweak in my own real estate business to have even more freedom than I already have. Because I have a lot of, I mean, I work for myself and I do my own things, but I think there's always more that you can do and figure out to tweak it to really live the life you want to live on a day-to-day basis. How do you maintain kind of consistency with what you need to do when you're traveling half the year? Are you working while you travel? Do you, you know, like and are there certain things that are like non-negotiables no matter where you are in the world? Yeah. You're making sure A, B, and C happens? Or is it that you're able to flex so much of it that you just do it when you're not traveling?
Yeah, so honestly, it's really helpful to have a partner. So my fiance works in real estate with me. So sometimes when I'm traveling, he will take on more of the load of like the properties and stuff like that. But I think a big thing is automation. So like the different tools that we use to manage our midterm rentals so that, you know, like the cleanings get automatically scheduled and the messaging is all automatic. So like when someone is checking in, like we have digital locks and the systems that we use create the code and send it to the tenant. And then the check-in process is just really smooth.
Yep.
So that helps a lot with traveling, is to just have really good systems. And then to just stay really organized. Like I just make sure I'm always really organized. I use a lot of spreadsheets. I use a lot of different systems. And then another thing that just really needs to continue for like the wholesaling to continue is follow-up calls. So making sure that like if I have leads in my system that I know want to sell soon, that I'm following up with them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
But the travel, it's tricky. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's easy to be gone for 6 weeks. Like I do not have the same productivity level that I would if I was like at my desk in St. Louis. But I also prioritize this type of lifestyle, and I'm okay with being less productive for parts of the year so that I can be out here like really enjoying everything that I've worked for.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
None of us is consistent in our productivity levels 100% of the time anyway. You could stay home 12 months of the year and still have ebbs and flows based on other things happening in your life, or because you get sick, or, you know, because it's the holiday season. So why not have lower productivity because you're doing the exact things that you want to spend your life doing?
So true.
As long as you know you have time and space to make up for that and to keep things going in between the travel, then Yeah, do that.
Yeah,
Spend that
and then
time, spend that money, go do the things you want to do.
For sure. And then I'm even more productive when I'm home because I'm like, okay, I've got a month before I leave the country again. I have to really focus on the things that I need to get done.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
But you can work from anywhere. The things that we do in real estate can be done from anywhere.
Yes.
It may not be quite as simple as if I was at home in St. Louis, but like I can manage a maintenance issue like sitting right here right now. I could manage that from anywhere.
Yep.
And that's because I have people that I work with in the local market. And so I message a contractor like, hey, can you go over to this property and do this thing? And it's like, no problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. We're very fortunate to live in this time when you can do these things from anywhere. I mean, I brought my laptop, we have our phones, the hostel has Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Lots of the coffee shops we've been to have Wi-Fi too. I had to pay one of my I had to pay one of my contractors while we were at our lunch today. Just,
Easy.
hop right on, send the money, get back to lunch. I mean, it takes a few seconds.
Right.
I think people
You
think
can do it
these
from anywhere.
interruptions mean that it's like this, it's going to be difficult. But I would rather
not.
experience difficulty while being at a cafe in Colombia.
Yeah. It's just something different to figure out, Can't just sit at home waiting for a maintenance call or like a contractor or whatever. It's like go out and live your life and do the things that are important to you and make the real estate fit around all of that.
Yes. The real estate is the tool. It's not the goal. It's not the end goal.
Right.
So that's a great way to finish this out because I wanted to ask you, and you're kind of already getting that way, but what's a mindset thing that you really want listeners to kind of leave this with? What's something that helps fuel your ability to keep doing this despite the ups and downs and the challenges that do happen?
I think, so my biggest tip would be to find the things that you get excited about and then do more of those things. So like for the longest time, I was trying to get myself to like fit into something that was not made for me, like a 9 to 5. It used to drive me crazy. I'm like, why don't I want this? Like, why don't I fit into this lifestyle? Everyone else is doing this. And then it was like, just over time, I started to realize the things that were really important to me and do more of those things, which is travel, and then travel led me into real estate. And it's kind of more of a flow of life and like seeing where like life takes me rather than like do this thing that everyone's doing and do what you saw growing up, which is like work a normal job, have a normal life. And that would be my biggest tip is to do the things that excite you and see where it takes you. Because like, why not live your life that way rather than trying to make yourself fit into someone's expectation of what you should be or like what society, like what you think is right. Like chase after what you get really excited about.
Yes.
And then let life happen.
I love that.
And maybe it's real estate.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like a really specific part of real estate.
Right.
And it doesn't like you don't have to buy 100 units. You just have to figure out what you enjoy and then do more of that.
You mean I don't need to scale from 0 to 100 in 6 months and then buy myself a Lambo?
If that's what you want.
Absolutely. Some people really love and care about those things. But no, I love your story. Thank you very much for agreeing to let me bring my whole setup so we could do this in the middle of our week in Colombia.
Cool. Yeah.
But you, I think, are such an inspiration. And I hope
Thank you.
Lots of people can hear this and it gives them the confidence to go and do the things they love and want to do.
For sure. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.